Go hard, or go home. 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 Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, or go home. Go hard, go.
Check. 1, 2, 3. Yo. Here we are, everyone. This is going to be a little bit of a different kind of YouTube. So, as you saw from the intro, this is the St. George story explained. But this is not a video about the events that transpired in any of the races. This is about how it affected me psychologically and how it affected me for the next year to come in either instance. And so I'll just dive right in. St. George is a race that's made me throughout time. If I look back even earlier, it was actually my first, it was my last age group race right before I turned professional. And I went out and I had no clue what I was doing. I was staying out in my F-150, so I drove out. At the time, the town was just a smaller town than it is now. It's really blown up, and I literally was finding a dirt lot to sleep in the back of the night before the race. Did that, drove out. And I remember what happened is I was warming up the morning before the race out by the dirt lot on Sand Hollow. You know, there's that little dirt road that you can run out on, and pitch black, and they've got this big wire that stretches across it, and I ran right through it, did a front flip, back on my ass, sitting there, staring up at the black sky and going like, okay, wow, it's going to be a day. And yeah, that day I ended up, I was like 17th overall with pros, last age group race, then took my pro card. So then we fast forward a few years, grinding for a few years, building up the ranks, getting some podiums, and then I show up, and now we're at the famous Lionel race. This is 2021. I show up in May, and truthfully, I show up. Lionel had been my idol for such a long time, right? I had looked up to him. I had idolized him, viewing him as a god, especially as someone who had similar abilities, but someone who I always viewed similar abilities, but stronger than me in each. So a stronger swimmer, a stronger biker, and a stronger runner. And admittedly, I was on that start line thinking maybe I can get second, but Lionel will definitely be first. And if I do get second, I'm probably going to be a few minutes back from Lionel. And then boom, the gun goes off. I find myself swimming just behind Lionel, and then we're on the bike for most of the time, kind of switching off poles. Me being a little maybe over eager to prove myself, right? So I kept wanting to do longer poles and harder poles and maybe burning my matches a little bit. Also not backing and believing in my run. And anyways, then we got off on the run, and it became one of the most epic run battles in the history of the sport, running all the way to the wire. And Lionel and I, we have a way of racing. You know, there's this new front of racing where when you race, like, people want to just sit in and conserve energy, and that's not how Lionel and I race when we race each other. It's man to man. It's let's see who's the better man. And we ran side by side, no one trying to like slide in and draft and then, you know, sucker punch the guy at the end. It was the truest man-to-man race I think you can ever have. And yeah, I mean, the rest is kind of history. We all know what happened, but with like 400 meters to go or so, he did what Lionel does, and he beat me to the finish line, and I finished 12 seconds back. But the thing is, that was like the best and most important second place finish I've ever had in my life. And I think the recognition I got from second place and with how the race unfolded was even more than had I won that race. So then suddenly, boom, I go, say, from, you know, 15 or 20,000 Instagram followers I was up at the time, up to almost 40,000 followers. Suddenly I've got eyeballs on me all over the place. And, you know, I'm just this raw, blunt kid with a passion and an ability in showing up to race. So then we fast forward, we're still in 2021. And then we go back to St. George in September for the World Championships. And then I had a similar experience that I had in May. I also show up there. And now you have to remember, my last 70.3 Worlds was 2019 in Nice, where I was 33rd place. Yeah, let that sink in for a minute. 33rd place. And now we are just 2 years later. And I show up, I'm maybe shooting for a top 10. And when I say a top 10, I really mean 6th through 10th. I'm just happy to be there. I had just been at Collins Cup and gotten my balls absolutely fucking cut off by Jan, finishing 5 minutes back. And, so I show up and really not having that much belief in myself, but loving being in St. George, looking forward to racing. And I had yet another great race, good swim. I biked solo, bridged up to the front, and then a great run where I dropped the rest of the field. Gustav was admittedly way up ahead in another level that day, but I dropped the rest of the field in the run, finished second place. And now that's when Sam Long really took off, right? Suddenly, then I was signing all these big sponsor deals, and again, boom, I went from say maybe 40,000 followers up to even more, and just really in the international spotlight. And with that, my mind and my expectations and what I thought I could accomplish, suddenly it was like, okay, this is a reality. And so then I went into 2022. Admittedly, I went into 2022 having no idea what 2022 would what 2022 would hold for me and what to expect. And again, I had a lot of pressure on me with the sponsors now needing to back up that performance. And in a way, the fun and just that raw, real, authentic, blunt Sam Long didn't fit in that new world as well, because I didn't do such a great job. I didn't do such a great job with all the hate coming at me and just with all the eyeballs on me, right? It's one thing to say, hey, yo, I'm the strongest legs in triathlon when you're sitting at a dinner table with 10 of your closest friends. And it's a completely different thing to say, yo, I've got the strongest legs in triathlon when the whole world is watching you and suddenly you're on the world stage, especially when 90% of those people don't know what the backstory is. They don't know where you came from. They don't know the sense of humor of Sam Long, and so they didn't see it as a joke. So then I go into 2022 last year, and 2022 was a roller coaster of a year. But yet again, St. George tells the story there, right? I show up in May. Suddenly now my expectations have changed. Instead of saying, okay, hey, I'm here, I'm having a good time. I just love St. George. I'm having fun. I'm here for the ride, the thrill of it. I'm there. I'm going I'm here to win. I've dedicated myself to win this race. And, things definitely were taken away. I was hit by a car 10 days before the race. But being me, I didn't want to admit where I was. So I still played it off, fighting my own ego, fighting this own mental battle, not wanting to lose the work of okay, I'm still ready for this. But deep down knowing I wasn't, almost pulling out of the start list, and then going out and just having a humbling day, getting 15th place.
Let's go, Sam!
Probably at maybe 80% of my best, but that's not what matters. What matters is that I went and I got 15th place with high expectations, with a difficult road into it, with suddenly lots of pressure on me. And so that then took me down a notch, right? And then I had to recuperate, build myself up again. And then we get back to the 70.3 World Championships in October, a race where then I had done the work, I had gotten ready, and then we all know, right, the penalty came about, and yet another bad finish, right? So yet again, I went in with the belief, the confidence, the preparation, and got knocked on my ass again. And both of those experiences in 2022. So here's the thing. While they look like dark, desperate, horrible experiences, the light and the beauty in those experiences was actually one of the best things, because it's gotten me back to my roots, and it's forced me to look at and evaluate who I am, how I want to portray myself, and why I do this sport. And so in a way, it was 2021 that was the curse, right? I grew into my shoes too fast. I was a kid who was so fast and with these big abilities, but I wasn't ready for the professional stage in that sense. And so then 2022 through both races has had a way of making me grow up, not in terms of my athletic abilities, but in terms of the professional capabilities and the mindset and the love for the sport and the grit and the determination to keep doing it and to keep pursuing it. And so what's the moral of the story? I think the moral of the story is like what appears as a bad experience isn't always a bad experience. And now looking back, I wouldn't trade those two experiences I had at St. George last year. And so all this is to say that, of course, I have to go back this May. I have to go back this May because of the history at that race for me, and to see myself evolve in the continuous evolution of Sam Long, and to go and now try and combine those. Okay, I've got my physical abilities, you know, that I showed in 2021 as that young kid just having a great fun time, and then combine it with that mental abilities and that mental professionalism and the love for the sport, and climbing up to the ladder and getting knocked down and coming back, and combining those two things and going out there in May and honestly just loving what I do. So thanks for tuning into the story. That's all. I hope you enjoyed this one. I sure enjoyed it. It's great for me to talk about it and put this whole experience just out there, because it's affected and changed who I am. So thanks so much for tuning in. Cheers, and yo, yo, yo.
Go hard, go hard, go home, go home, go hard, go home. Yeah, these championship rings on my hands now. In my head, I'm top 10, yeah, that's hands down. You a squad, now you're looking man down. Funny how foes turn to friends now.